What's up, guys? It's your boy Sim back at it again. We're gonna face name and a beast to the game. So I've been absent from uploads for a while, and as you can tell by the title of this video, I've been, well, busy. I've been team hopping. I know, shame on me. Sue me for it. But I can explain. And in order to do that, I gotta go all the way back to the beginning, back to 2012, so we can understand why I am where I am and how I got here. I'll spare you the details from then to now to get to the point. My story from the beginning in detail is for another time. Back in 2012, I started sniping heavily. I mean, I had been dabbling with it beforehand and, doing quickscope 1v1s. I didn't start actually like recording clips and making montages and things like that until around 2012. I actually remember being at the midnight release for Black Ops 2, being super excited about it, and that's where my love for grinding for sniping clips began. And even back then, during that era of my time sniping and gaming and recording and making content, I even joined some awesome teams like Animal, Vatican, even started a team of my own called Vitae Empire. You name it, I did it. Much like a lot of people probably watching this very video. And fast forward to about 2015, I graduated high school in 2015, and I moved away from home to start, my own life. And I still played COD here and there until about 2017. But then, life happened and I eventually fell flat on my face. And because I fell flat on my face, it forced me to stop making sniping content. No more montages, no more sniping clips. Then in 2019, I became a dad and realized quickly that I needed to get my life together to be the father that my son needed me to be and still needs me to be. And so I did just that. And I had my trials and tribulations. Things weren't perfect. I had to grind really hard. There were lots of ups and downs and struggles. And even through all the trials and tribulations that life had to throw at me, my love for Call of Duty and content creation never went away. It was always in the back of my mind, and it was always something that I wanted to work toward getting back into. I was just never in the position in my life to be able to make that happen during that period of time from, my last Call of Duty montage was like 2014, 2015, but there was like a 10-year gap where I wasn't able to make sniping content. And the reason being was, obviously with those struggles, I had to sell equipment, gaming consoles, and I wasn't able to do the things that I love to do with Call of Duty and content creation. It just wasn't on the table for me. And at some points in my life, there were times where I didn't even have internet at, some places I was living. Be it, my first apartment, or when, things were down and out for me, I had to crash with my cousin for a while. There was just, a lot of things that happened from then to now that made it very difficult to be able to actually lock in and make any sort of content. I had other priorities, things that had to come first to get me to where I'm at now. Then around 2021, I ended up being in the position to go out and purchase an Xbox, and I was able to start gaming again. And the Xbox that I had, I was able to stream directly from my Xbox to Twitch, which was super cool. And the first thing I did when I came back was I got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, and I started going for sniping clips immediately. At this point, the game had been out for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. So it was closer to 2020 that I actually ended up getting this Xbox. So Modern Warfare 2019, it had already been out for a year and a half, and this is around when, Warzone became a thing. And, I got back into sniping, trying to hit sniping clips on 2019, hit my first clip back. I was super excited, but my friends weren't there. I had nobody to share that moment with, kind of like an empty feeling. Because I've always said it's never been the game. It's never been Call of Duty. Everybody has debates about whether or not a Call of Duty is great, and they always talk about the old days back in BO2, BO3, even all the way back to, you know, Modern Warfare 2 in 2009. Like, it was never the game. It was the people you played it with that made it great. All the core memories that you had, that was a thing that was missing. When I came back to the COD scene, it just wasn't the same. My friends that I made back in 2012 to 2016 were not online anymore. They hadn't logged on since, you know, 2016. It had been years since their accounts had been online, and just everything was different about it. And I didn't quite like that too much. So I still wanted to, you know, make content, and streaming became more popular. So I got into streaming on Twitch. You know, I started up another team, but this time it was for Warzone. Warzone was the new hot thing, and so I decided to take a stab at it, and I got pretty good. And along the way during the Warzone era of my gaming career, I made a lot of really awesome friends and did some really cool things. World Series of Warzone, hosted tournaments with the team that I own, and just dabbled with a lot of different things, and eventually Warzone got pretty boring for me. It just wasn't cutting it. It wasn't the same. You know, it just kind of fell off for me after a few years. And I did enjoy it for the time that, you know, I was doing it, but it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't like my thing. It was just what was hot at the time, and that's where everybody's attention was. So if I wanted to have fun with my friends and play the game and make content, that's where I felt I needed to be, but it was kind of forced. So after I got bored with Warzone, I moved on to competitive multiplayer, playing ranked play, things like that. I eventually got a like semi-pro team put together. We did a couple of LAN events. I even got engaged to Mrs. Cincy at the end of one of the LAN events, and it was super cool. You guys can see the clip here. It's one of the best moments in my life, and it was in the presence of our gaming friends. My dad was there. It was just a super cool moment. So as you can tell, gaming and Call of Duty have been a huge part of my life. And it's not just Call of Duty to me. By now you're saying, come on, Cincy, get to the point. I'm getting there, I promise. And after a few years of meeting new friends, starting a new team, finding new love, creating awesome memories, something was just still missing. And that one thing was sniping. Like, that was my first go-to, my first escape from, you know, life as it was, my favorite thing to do after school every day when I was a kid. It just became a huge part of me and who I am. So the one thing that was missing was sniping, and that's what I started with. I missed it, so I set out to find what was left of the sniping community, if there was anything. I eventually discovered that most of the community socialized and interacted with one another primarily on X, formerly known as Twitter. And I started grinding for sniping clips again and started posting them, and eventually got noticed by a team called Obey Supremacy. But that was short-lived. I realized the formula that they had in that team just didn't have the ingredients I needed to be what I wanted to be in this scene. While in Obey Supremacy, I ended up meeting somebody from Team Colt. We were just sniping in a lobby in BO6, ran into each other. His name's Lacram. Shout out to him. He became one of my close homies for a while. We gamed together for a couple of months, and you know, just by grinding with him, naturally I started to grind for Colt because I started meeting more people from the team, and they were a really good group of guys, and they were creating the space that I needed to be able to flourish as a content creator and as a sniper. So that's ultimately where I decided that I wanted to go at that time. In the midst of, you know, starting to grind for Colt, there was one catch. I had been out of the loop and out of the community for so long. Standards had changed. You know, what people are looking for in the type of content had changed. Just overall had to be top tier, sharp, no loose ends, right? And that was fine. I have no problem with that. I was up to the challenge. So I started grinding really hard for a long time. I mean, I was grinding really hard day and night, pretty much for a few months. I didn't have anything really better to do, nothing really going on, and so I decided to make it my goal to join Team Colt, and I did. After putting out, you know, a couple of showcase videos and hitting a bunch of clips and grinding really hard to get up to those standards in the current landscape of what Call of Duty is currently, I ended up getting it. And it made me a better sniper and got me, you know, up to standard, and I started collecting clips. And then there was another catch. A few weeks after joining Team Colt, all of the guys that supported me to get in the team, the sniping leads, the sniping roster, they all saw what I was doing on the timeline. I was on the timeline every day, interacting with every one of them, posting clips every day. A couple weeks after, you know, joining the team, they decided that they ultimately were going to drop the entire sniping roster. Aside myself and a couple of people, they realized I grinded really hard to get into the team, and they offered me to stay as a content creator. Content creation wasn't exactly my strong suit. I just got back into the community, and I grinded really hard to get my sniping standards up to where they needed to be. So that's where my focus was. The one thing I was lacking was good quality content. Now, anybody can make a cutcom that, you know, we used to make back in 2015, but my content side of things was lacking. I didn't have the equipment that had the boost to be able to put out high quality content. My editing wasn't exactly top tier, but again, I was up for the challenge. However, after all of the people that supported me to get into the team in the first place ended up getting kicked, it just didn't feel the same anymore. I initially accepted to be a content creator so I could give it a shot and see how it would go. I was getting close with some of the content creators in the team, some of the streamers in there, and then our content lead ended up leaving. It just wasn't the same. It wasn't the space that I wanted to be in. I was no longer comfortable. I didn't have people to run with on a daily basis. Throughout this entire journey of, you know, grinding for Colt, getting into Colt, I ran into somebody by the name of Reflex. Shout out to my buddy Reflex. He met me back on BO6 while I was grinding for Colt, and he ended up eventually joining Era, and, you know, me, him, and Person would run, and Cosmic eventually ended up in the mix somewhere along the way. And so I became ultimately really close with Reflex, and then got acquainted with some of the guys from Era, you know, as time went on. Well, I felt really out of place and I wanted a new place to go, so I saw that my buddies are in Era, and, you know, if Era's accepting these kinds of people, that's where I wanted to be, because they're a really good group of guys, and I really enjoy their company, and they're ultimately like really nasty at the game, and so I knew that joining forces with them would create a recipe for an insane sniping roster. Well, that wasn't on the table immediately. It just wasn't in the cards. Somebody that was a former Cult member ended up joining Team Psycho, and back in the day, I knew of Psycho. I knew who they were, but even leading up into now, just only being back in the sniping community for the last year and a half, I didn't know anything about the history of the team, anything about the leads of the team. But if my friend from Cult was going over to Psycho, then maybe I could trust it. They seemed like a team that was supposed to have, you know, all their ducks in a row and things like that. But I'm not going to get too far into it. It just didn't work out. It was not the environment I wanted to be in. I already knew that the place that I wanted to be and where my heart was with Era. And so joining them, you know, I wasn't really happy with where I was at, but I was going to try to make it work anyway. About a month into being in Psycho, I got offered a spot in Era, and taking into consideration that I had just joined Psycho like a month ago, it didn't seem right to go from being in Cult and then a month later, or a few months later, joining Psycho, and then a month later joining Era, because, you know, I'm against team hopping. I think that if you find an environment in a group of like-minded people doing the same thing that you're doing, and you enjoy doing that, you should stay and try to build what it is you're trying to build with that team in that space. You shouldn't join a new team every month just to check off the box and see how many teams you can join. That's silly. I wouldn't do that. I've never been one to do that. That's just my opinion, though. Again, with that being my opinion, it just didn't feel right. So I told, you know, the Era leads, I was like, hey, you know, give me a little bit to think about this. And ultimately, I decided to rip it off like a band-aid and leave Psycho to join Era, because I knew that Era was where I wanted to be anyway, and there was no sense in dragging it on just to make other people happy. Because I did talk to the Psycho leads about, you know, things that we could do to improve the team and things that I had planned for the team, and just a lot of different things literally right before being made that offer. Not the greatest, most ideal thing in the world, but I'd be lying to myself if I decided to stay and pretended I was happy where I was at. I have a lot of friends in Era, and and they have a really good group of guys, and that's where I ultimately wanted to be. Their reputation is also better, and the way that they're going about making their content and things like that is just the environment that I want to be in. So I made the decision to make the jump over to Era. I'm honestly glad that I decided to make that jump, because during the time that I've been here, I've met quite a few people that I've become really, really close with, and we've got something special. Like, truly, Era, especially the sniping roster, like Era as a whole in general, we've got something special going on. Not to mention, we have like the nastiest sniping roster in the community. I'm like really proud of our guys, and like I just feel like no one's touching the type of, you know, sniping montages, clips that we're hitting. Like the group of people that we have, we're all legit. We don't, you know, do anything to modify our lobbies or anything like that. We just load up the game, go, and we hit nasty clips. And it's just the nicest feeling to be able to now, as an adult, get to experience once more what I enjoyed so much as a teenager while I was growing up. Just getting on Call of Duty and hitting raw, real clips with awesome reactions from the homies when it happens. It's just an awesome thing to be able to experience once more before it inevitably ends up, you know, just not being a thing anymore. Or I get to a point in my life where I'm at the age where I just can't do it anymore. Whichever comes first, but I'm going to enjoy it while it's here, and hopefully it's here to stay for a long time from now. In that same respect, being in Era, becoming close with the guys, I even ran into a friend from 2013. Back in 2013, I led a team called Vitae Empire, which anybody watching this knows that I just rebranded the team that I own back to Vitae Empire to bring back that name from, you know, the 2012 to 2016 era, because it meant a lot to me. I had a lot of really close friends back then, had some of my greatest memories in that team. And the friend that I ran into from back then is Era Lore. Back then he was called Hawk Tai. He was in a team called Clan Hawk HQ, and Clan Hawk was a PS3 sniping team. They were well known for putting out the longest Tages in COD history, up to 45 minutes, almost an hour long montages of the absolutely most fuck clips and edits you've ever seen. And I was, a huge fan of that. I even grinded to get in the team at one point, but Era Lore, aka Hawk Tai, back then was a manager for my team Vitae Empire. As you can see here, there is a Google Docs that hasn't been modified since 2014, and he's listed under the roster as a manager, which is pretty cool. And in the same respect, we just rebranded the team that I own to Vitae Empire, and Lore has joined the team once again as an overall lead, and it's just really cool how things come full circle. All in all, life is just a wild ride. From the outside looking in, it looked like I was team hopping, but in reality, I was just trying to find my place in this scene, the whole sniping scene. I was just coming back to the community and trying to find my place. That's all it was. I ended up finding it. I found it. I found my place. I went from struggling in life to becoming a dad to grinding to get my life together, to finding the love of my life, starting a career that I truly enjoy, then joining a dream team of mine filled with friends that I made over the years. So, if you're watching this video and there's something you want out of life, even if things seem impossible, if you want it bad enough and put in the time to grind, you can also find your spot. You can find your spot in whatever scene it is that you want to be a part of, whether it's your career, a hobby, whatever it is in life that you're choosing to do. You want to travel, just put your mind to it. It may take a few years. You could accomplish it in a couple months. Just depends on how much time and grit and effort that you put into whatever it is that you want to do. To some people, it's just a video game, and they'll try to downplay it because they don't get it. But to me, it's the connecting dots and what makes me, well, me. It's the foundation of some of the best friendships I've ever had, and the cornerstone to every memory I've had that's connected to it. I really hope somebody finds this video when they need it the most, and I hope it inspires them to go after whatever it is for you. And I hope you get there, Thank you for watching. This has been your boy Sin. Until next time.